Last Knoll.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Education. Minister, you recall that in June in this House I asked if you would introduce a healthy lunch program for all primary school students in government schools. Unfortunately, you refused. Minister, I note that your school lunch pilot program will be delivered to 15 schools next year and 15 more the year after, bringing the total to 30. Barely 1/5 of Tasmania's 146 kinder to grade 6 schools, and it's still only a pilot. Firstly, I'm puzzled by the funding announcement. There will be $700,000 in 2022 for 15 schools, then $700,000 in 2023, presumably to keep delivering to the 15 schools from 2022, but also for the 15 schools added in 2023. How does that work? Shouldn't that be $1.4 million in 2023? More fundamentally, will you acknowledge that the pilot to date has without doubt proven the worth of the scheme, and will you now deliver a healthy lunch programs to all primary school students in Tasmanian government schools?
Mr Speaker.
Minister for Education.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for her question. As the Education Minister, I completely concur about the importance of education for our young people. We want our young people to be growing up in a place where they have opportunity and access, Mr Speaker. This is why we have, Mr Speaker, committed to our $1.4 million expansion of the school lunch pilot program to 30 schools. Indeed, recently, I think it was only last week, Mr Speaker, I visited Beaconsfield Primary School to announce the first 15 schools to participate in this program. They have participated in a comprehensive EOI process, and then furthermore, Mr Speaker, next year we will see another 15 schools able to participate in this pilot. Schools know their students and their communities, so this opt-in program allows the flexibility to ensure that schools are empowered with their school communities to make the right decisions. There are 2 points I'd like to make in response to the member's question. Firstly, these are pilots. So the purpose of the pilot is ultimately, Mr Speaker, is to be able to evaluate them. The government has committed to independent evaluation of the pilot program, and ultimately that will be able to inform future decision making on potential funding commitments, as well as the way that funding commitments roll out, Mr Speaker. We know that the breadth of schools have huge diversities in the way that these programs can be delivered. Indeed, different schools have different capacities and different schools have different setups, indeed, in their equipment, which is why within this pilot there's a lot of flexibility for schools to either spend money on capital, spend money on food, or other programs to ensure that it's appropriate for their setting. So, Mr Speaker, that's a really important point for the Chamber to acknowledge, that through this pilot and through the independent assessment, it will give the government the information it needs to be able to make good decisions going forward. Furthermore, Mr Speaker, I'd also like to draw the member's attention to the food security strategy that my colleague Mr Rockcliffe announced last week. So this, Mr Speaker, the Food Relief to Food Resilience Food Security Strategy, this, Mr Speaker, is part of this broader strategy, and so the government is working around a range of mechanisms across different parts of community sectors and government organisations to ensure that we are looking at how we can ensure that all Tasmanians have food security, Mr Speaker. This is about ensuring that we have a comprehensive approach that looks at a range of different mechanisms, from emergency food relief to a range of ways that we can empower and build capacity in the community, and to school lunches through the pilot, Mr Speaker. So, Mr Speaker, I can assure the member that we're going to be monitoring this very closely. It's been welcomed at the schools that it's been provided to, and in terms of future funding commitments, that will be determined on the outcomes of the pilot.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable member for that.